Hello and welcome back. In this lecture, we will be demonstrating how to use the Azure Managed Identities. As part of this demo, what we will be trying to do is we will create a virtual machine and assume that this virtual machine has some application. Let's say some application is running, which is called, maybe I can call as Facebook authentication, let's say. So Facebook authentication specific application is running. So this Facebook authentication specific keys are stored under your key vault. So that's your secret keys. Like you have a secret user ID and password that is stored under your key vault. So this key vault is stored all the secret values. So how, for example, if it is a normal method, what you will be doing is you will be writing your code within this application, within application which consists your VM, right? So within your VM, whatever the application is there you would be hard coding user ID and password. Just to avoid that functionality, definitely what we will be trying to do is we will be enabling managed identity and we will be demonstrating that. So what I'll do is once I create this VM, I'll configure managed identity for this, and also I'll configure here under key vault a secret key and access policy. So this access policy will grants access for my VM to retrieve the keys. So when a VM requested a key, it checks for the access policy whether this access is allowed. In that situation, it will be granted the access. So that's what we are trying to do as a demo. So think that the entire process, whatever we are trying to do in the VM, in the end of the demo, I will be showing with a PowerShell because I have not developed any of the application to demonstrate this. Instead, we will call whatever the application will call similar information we are calling from the PowerShell to demonstrate this. Like a Facebook will call the secret key vault to access that value, all that. So that's all about the demo. So let's jump into the configuration part. And to begin with that, I need to have the Azure P2 license to work with managed identities. So I will be enabling the, if you have not yet done, so this is going to be a little bit of fast forward, but just wanted to enable Azure P2 license. So the first thing, so I'm just going back to the Active Directory and it's a free, if you can see here. So I'll be enabling here a trial for P2. If you have a pay-as-you-go model, you can enable the P2 license, but in my case I don't have, so I have already activated, looks like. So I'll just use the this time EMS license, so it's enabled P2 license. Now I can go back and see what kind of licenses I have now, though it's a P2. And once you have the Azure P2 licenses confirmed in this way, once you you can go ahead and create the virtual machine. So I'm going to create here as the VM demo managed identity in a resource group, and I'm just giving as the computer name and choosing my region and the image name. It's a very basic image which I wanted to choose, so I'll just go with the 4-core with 16 GB of RAM so that I'll get a good performance, and I'll enter the user ID and password there. That's a user ID which I'm going to use. So it's a normal VM creation process. I'll just go to the disks. So I don't have to do anything here. If you want to attach, you can attach it, but I don't have anything here much. But here also in the networking also I don't have anything to do much here. But let's go back to the next one, which is a management. This is very interesting and very important. If you see here managed identity, this talks about the enabling the managed identities. So if you enable this, there will be a managed identity will be granted access for your RBAC, so that if you just go back to RBAC, you can give that, and this entire lifecycle is managed as we discussed in the previous lecture along with the resource. So if you delete that resource, it gets deleted. So this can be enabled later point also from the managed identity, which I've shown as part of the PPT also. So I'm not enabling here. At this point of time, I will come back and enable that specific radio button later point. So I'll just create a very basic VM, And then as a next step, I would be creating a key vault. So once I have the key vault, I will try to retrieve that secret keys from this virtual machine uh, with the help of managed identity, so that when I use this demonstration, I don't need to store anywhere any of the user details. So let's create it the VM. Now if you see here, I can enable, if I want, just go to the manage identity for system as well as the user. So I don't have anything here at this point of time. So let's go to the Azure Key Vault. So under Key Vault, I would be enabling or adding one of the Key Vault service. It's a very basic. Again here I would be using the same resource group and same region and the default settings with the retention policy of 90 days. And if you have not yet understand about the key vault, check out the key vault lecture, but I'm actually enabling here a very basic. And if you see here, this is very important, like enabling key vault specific services or access for your VMs and your ARM, that's entire resources, and also for the disk encryption. That's what we are trying to enable here, 3 different things. So this is comes under access policy. And coming back to the key vault scope, this is again under networking. Do you want to enable for entire networks, that's all networks, or a private network, or just for a selected network? So in my case, for entire network, and you can give any of the tags, and you can review and create a key vault. When you create this key vault, post to that, I'm going to create a secret key within that key vault, and I will be retrieving directly from the Azure VM after enabling the identity managed identity. So I don't need to again have any user ID password to authenticate to my key vault. That's where the key vault comes into the picture. So in this demo, we would be trying to demonstrate this specific thing. So I just got created the key vault services. Let's go to managed identity, especially for the key vault, and we will create here a secret keys. So if you see here, the soft tokens, all that, this is the default things which we have, which we know it already in the managed in the key vault specific services. So under secret, I just taken as a create a new secret. So I'm just creating a new secret. I'll just give here, maybe this is secret key for my Facebook authentication. So I gave the user ID. So you can also choose here certificates, but I'm just choosing the manual. And here the expiry date also you can set if you want. So let's say I can put it for June 30th. And you want to enable, yes, I want to enable that specific. So now a secret key has been created. So I gave the value inside that. If you want, I can show you one more time. So that's the URL of that, and if you see the secret value, that's actually, let me open in a notepad and paste it. So when I copy that, it actually is showing me as it's unknown. That's a key which I have given typed while creating. So I can also click on show secret key to see what's there inside. Let's try to connect to the VM and configure managed identity. So from the VM properties, under settings, you have identity, and then you have a system managed, system assigned, as well as the user assigned. So I'm gonna work with the system assigned. So I'll be choosing as the enable, that's on button, and save. So what would happen after configuring this is system assigned managed identity will be enabled for this as your resource. So what is this resource? Resource is a infrastructure as a service VM, and that will enable the authentication to, for example, key vault or whatever the credential you are stored. It can be accessed with the help of RBAC. Here, if you see here, RBAC specific, and with the Azure Active Directory, right? And this entire life cycle can be managed if you delete or if you based on the virtual machine. So once it is created or saved the system assigned identity. And if you see here object ID, which we talked, this is a unique ID which has created, and also the Azure roles also can be assigned from here. And in the backend, once we enable this, it actually creates a backend principal name also gets created with this specific VM name. So I will be showing that in a minute. But this is all about the configuration side that you have to do it from the VM side. Now let's jump to a key vault to configure access policies. So I'll just go to the access policies. And if you see here, if you have not configured your key vault, make sure that this specific setting is enabled, like Azure Virtual Machine for Deployment. And currently you have user specific configuration is enabled for the access policies for a different things, but there's nothing for application specific. So we are going to create now by clicking on add access policy. We would be creating a application specific one. So as we talked in the previously, when we enable for the VM, we have a principal name got created with the specific VM name. So just go to type the specific VM name. So you would be getting the specific VM name with the principal name. So I'll just select that, and you do have different templates. So templates will be used to configure a different access configurations or access policies directly. So in our case, we are trying with the secret management, but in general, you can choose whatever the required template is applicable for you. Let's say you want to manage key management or SQL server connector, you can choose that specific. So what would happen is when you choose that, the required configuration will be pre-populated for you. So for example, let's say I select secret management. In this case, for me, the required select permissions are pre-populated for me. So I'll just go to the secret permissions. I can show you. So all these are showing. So I would be using in this demo to get and list values will be used. So I don't need other values, but I just selected as the template. So you don't have anything with the certificate. So I'll simply click on add, and that would actually configure my access policy. So you see here now under applications, you have one principal which has that identity with assigned access policy as the secret. So it's time for us to connect to the demo VM01 and demonstrate to pull that secret values from the secret values from the key vault. So I'll just save this and go back to VM. So I'll just go to Azure dashboard and virtual machine and connect quickly so that I can connect and log in with the PowerShell. So let me open PowerShell with the visible text, and this is the command which I have to use. So just to explain to you here, the first thing is we are trying to store the value under this variable called response. So what that response will store is it's invoking. That means it's actually calling this specific URI, which is the default IP specific configuration which we talked in the previous lectures. If you remember, under terms we called as the Azure instance metadata service. So this is the IP, which is the metadata service which calls your REST endpoint specific accessible for your infrastructure as a service, and then the API version based it is calling, and it's getting the headers and the metadata value as a true. So this value will be stored under response. Later point, we are using this value to and that value we are converting into JSON format. So that entire JSON format information will be stored under content, and this content is getting access token information, and that gets stored under key vault. As a next step here, I would be actually calling that secret URI or key vault URI specific information along with my application name. In that case, it's the FB authentication. So I'll be calling that, and then I'll get that information. So let's copy that value and paste it so that I would be storing that value invoking request under response. Next step is storing the under content to convert into JSON format, and then finally key vault token, that's the access token information I'll be storing. Now it's time for me to call another request with the metadata service. So that's a URL for Linux based URLs commands, but in our case it's just for the Windows, so I'll be using that. And make sure that here if you remember, either in your Linux or you're in Windows, you need to call your key vault URL. So key vault URL will also have a secret, that's your application name. So in our case it's the FB authentication specific, and also the default version will come. I don't need to have that version, but you can give that information. So to find that secret value or secret key vault specific URL, I'll just go to the key vault and press and go to secrets, and that's my secret. The secret name is FB authentication, and this is my Facebook authentication specific secret key, which are stored here under this. So I'll simply click on my current version. I don't need to store my current version, but I'll just copy here this entire URL along with my current version, but I'll take it out that version name because it will pull automatically the version name. So secret identifier is copied. So let me paste that entire URL as it is in my notepad, and then do the modification. Like I don't need my version, example the D9E563, see all that value, so I don't need definitely, so I'll just take it out. So let me paste the entire value as it is here and do the modification for you. I don't need the version, and the secret name is already mentioned here. If you see here, secret is already there at the cursor point, and the name is FB authentication. So I can take out that entire values which is repeated, and including the secret name also. So let's delete that values and use the del key to delete, and I'll still use up to question mark here, so that it's actually pulls the default version. So I don't need to pull the version name, it will pull. So that's it. That's the proper value. I can copy and I can invoke that specific value here. So let's that's the final command which I need to use, or I'll use till that, and I don't need this version number. So I'm going to invoking with the default version. So copy this entire specific value, that's a complete command line, and invoke it so that you get the proper output with your authorization information, key vault token, whatever it is stored. So key vault token is nothing but here, key vault token is nothing but your content.access token. What exactly content.access token here? Content comes from the response.token, response.content, which is converted into JSON format here. So that's good, and this entire content is coming from the response, right? So response is invoked already to call our metadata service. So we will copy this command and we will get that secret values will be automatically retrieved. So let's say this is your Facebook application which is triggering to your key vault to get the secret value as it's unknown, whatever the value which you gave here, that value is pulling up. For example, the secret value is it's unknown as your password example, that value was retrieved, and also the expiry date and created date, all that information is by default it is pulled. So this is how it works actually, the key vault. Let's say if you have disabled this virtual machine with the identity as off, turned off, so what would happen? Let's execute the same command and see what would happen. Let's say I wanted to save this and run on a fresh PowerShell after giving few minutes time, and that's my PowerShell I opened, again calling the first command itself, which throws an error saying, hey, you don't have a proper engine which is metadata service, definitely, which will run on that specific engine because you don't have an identity not found. I hope this entire demonstration will be useful for you to understand about managed identities for system identities. Thank you for watching this.